From delicious food to ancient knowledge, these countries are two of the most famous cultures in the entire world. Here are 7 differences between life in India versus China that you didn't know. Religion. In terms of religion, India is a one-of-a-kind country. It is officially a secular state with the most significant number of Hindus, Jainas, Sikhs, Zoroastrians, and Baha'is, and the 3rd highest concentration of Muslims. It is a holy land for Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, and is home to many spiritual gurus and organizations. 97% of the population believe in God and say religion is essential for their lives. Buddhism, the 5th most practiced religion in the world, originated in India. Officially, the People's Republic of China is an atheist state. Still, the government recognizes 5 religions: Buddhism, Taoism, Catholicism, Protestantism, and Islam. Buddhists are the most numerous religious communities in China. However, because many Han practice historical, cultural Buddhism rather than a daily practice, counting their exact numbers can be complex. Though more of a philosophy than a religion, Confucianism was a way of life for the ancient Chinese people and continues to influence Chinese culture today. Work life. India has the 5th largest economy in the world. Its biggest industries are automobiles, sugar, textiles, iron, steel, and of course, everything related to IT. And even with an ever-increasing skilled labor force, they have a pretty relaxed working culture among colleagues. Employees are not afraid to breach professional boundaries. They become friends with their coworkers. And any break at work is a great time to gather and have a good chat to help relieve stress. On the other hand, China is the 2nd largest economy in the world and has a unique working culture, particularly in business. While the government mandates that people only work 8 hours a day, companies often overlook that rule, schedule their employees for 12-hour shifts, and offer no overtime pay. However, because of all the extra hours people work, it is absolutely normal and acceptable for them to take naps while at work. In Chinese working culture, collectivism and teamwork are more prized than individualism. People often get to know their coworkers personally and spend a lot of time with them outside of work. Also in the business world, networking is everything. Many people who work at a particular company got their job there because they knew someone. Healthcare. India has a state-funded insurance scheme that covers around 500 million people for free, even though the quality isn't always the best, especially in rural areas. As a result, many of India's wealthy have bought private health insurance to help cover them in private hospitals, with a very high quality of care. India's private hospitals are so good that they have become a popular place for medical tourism in recent years, with many people traveling from Bangladesh, Iran, Uzbekistan, Kenya, Nigeria, and many other countries for treatment. China's healthcare maintains traditional Chinese medicine, known as TCM, and modern medicine as 2 parallel healthcare systems. The Chinese government provides free primary healthcare to 90% of the population in urban and rural areas. However, they don't pay for everything. So most people have to obtain their own insurance either through their employer or even a private company to help with extra costs. Even then, many still have to split costs with their insurance. They also have VIP wards with highly trained personnel and often English-speaking doctors and nurses. These VIP wards typically charge higher prices than other hospital facilities, but often remain cheap by American standards. Education. India's education system operates over 700,000 schools and is free and compulsory for children between 6 and 14 years old. The system consists of 8 years of primary education, 4 years of secondary education, and around 3 years of higher education, being 4 years for tech and engineering careers. According to the 2011 census, India has a literacy rate of 74%, with a 16.3 gender gap. Indian youth, though, have a literacy rate of 91.7%, which reflects the country's efforts in this category, investing 4.6% of its GDP into it. China also has a state-funded education system that is compulsory for all children between the ages of 6 and 15. In Chinese culture, education is of the utmost importance to people. Often, a person's value is based on their level of education, what they studied, and where they studied. As a result, China's education system can be extremely competitive as students try to be the best in their classes and get into the best universities. It is the most extensive education system in the world, which accounts for about 4% of the country's GDP, meaning around 5.3 trillion yuan. China has a literacy rate of 96.4 and a gender gap of 3.7. Food. India is the spice capital of the world, as over 70% of the world's spices are exported from there. In fact, out of the 109 herbs listed in the ISO, India produces around 75 of them. All those spices available mean that Indian cuisine is one of the most flavorful in the world. However, you could say that most Indian cuisine is somehow borrowed. Potatoes, tomatoes, and chilies are not native to the region. In the 15th and 16th centuries, Portuguese traders brought these items to the country, and Greek or Roman traders most likely brought saffron. Naan bread, which has long been associated with Indian cuisine, is thought to have originated in Persia in the 1300s. And finally, even chicken tikka masala, a world-famous Indian dish, was actually invented in Scotland in 1971. India has such a wide variety of food that they don't have a national dish. They have many meat dishes, like the keema and butter chicken, and tons of vegetarian dishes like the masala dosa and dal makhani. Although the influence of Hinduism makes it illegal to consume beef in many parts of the country, only around 29% of the population is entirely vegetarian. They still make up 400 million people though. In contrast, Chinese food is as unique and satisfying as it is extensive and diverse, mainly because of its vast landscape and long history of small kingdoms and ethnic groups. Most Chinese dishes are rice or noodle-based and are paired with ingredients like pork, duck, beef, chicken, tofu, eggs, onion, daikon radish, soybean sprouts, and bamboo shoots, just to name a few. Among many of China's traditional dishes, we find chow fan, the famous fried rice, the baozi, which is basically steamed buns often filled with veggies and pork, and kong yu bing, which is the Chinese version of pancakes, just to name a few. The Peking duck is considered China's national dish since it has been made for centuries, tracing its origins back to the Yuan dynasty in Beijing, where it was deemed a royal dish. It is famous for its crispy, thick skin. In fact, sometimes only the skin is served and not the meat itself. Sports. Cricket is by far the most popular sport in India, and they're really good at it. India's national cricket team has won the World Cup 2 times, as well as 3 other international tournaments. They will even be the hosts of the Cricket World Cup in 2023. Indians love cricket so much that in 1999, around 465,000 people went to see a 5-day match between India and their biggest rival, Pakistan. Still, India's national sport is field hockey, which has suffered a decrease in popularity due to India's hockey federation slowly collapsing, mainly because of internal conflicts. At the same time, other nations like Germany, Australia, and the Netherlands became the top referents of this sport once dominated by India. At the same time, China's national sport is table tennis. Chinese players have dominated the sport ever since the ping-pong diplomacy in the 70s. Running is very popular among Chinese people, with around 44% of the population practicing the sport. And even though all things Western were banned by the government, basketball is really popular, and China's proving to be an excellent market for the NBA, mainly due to 18% of the country's athletes practicing the sport. Although many believe that football, or as our American friends like to call it, soccer, originated in England, there's evidence that traces back its origins to 2,200 years ago in ancient China. Chinese Football League is becoming more popular, and the government set the goal of winning the 2050 FIFA World Cup. Literature. India has the oldest literary tradition in the world. Books, plays, and songs have been written in hundreds of languages and cover all kinds of topics and themes. Classic Hindi and Sanskrit stories are so well known in India that even those who can't read can recite them by heart to their loved ones. By the way, many of them have been adapted into great Bollywood films over the years. Books like Arthashastra, Baburnama, The Recognition of Shakuntala, and the Kama Sutra, among many others, have managed to break barriers of time and language and have been read by millions of people across the world. China also has an ancient literary tradition that's far too long and complex. Just think about this. The Chinese civilization is one of the world's oldest and dates back to around 3000 BC, so of course, they must have a lot of literature that's really important for mankind. Here are 4 classic novels that, among others, are considered to be the most important in Chinese literature. Dream of the Red Chamber, Water Margin, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, and Journey to the West. These books are among the longest and oldest novels in the world. Dating back to around 1500 BC, they both are 2 of the most ancient civilizations in the world. How do you think these cultures have influenced your country? Let us know in the comments down below.